good afternoon. Welcome to SW6 Blues Pride of London. Today, great pleasure. We've got Mick Robinson on, former guitarist in the casual band Accent. He's done many other things, and I'll let him explain and carry on. Right, good afternoon, Mick. Welcome, mate.
Afternoon. Yeah, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
No, we wanted to get you on ages ago, and then we said, right, let's get him, and you've agreed to come on, which is brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, straight away.
What are you up to now, then, Mick?
Well, currently I'm a landlord at a pub in Brighton. So it's called Shorts Bar. It's been going a couple of years. Obviously, very stop and start with all the lockdowns, shutdowns, all the rest of it. But generally, lovely pub, going really well, really successful. We have a bit of live music, DJs. It's nice. It's a good spot.
Do you still play in any bands or pick up the guitar now, or are you finished?
Well, I did a couple of years ago. Yeah, I formed a band called FUG, which was FUG, which stood for Fucked Up Generation. We're allowed to swear? We're all right swearing.
Yeah, of course I'm not. You want on here.
So it was Fucked Up Generation, and I just thought we did a few covers. Just a bit of fun, really, at a local place. All my mates come down and all that. But generally, I don't now. No, I'd rather promote bands and put on bands. That's what I like doing.
So you first come to my attention for the obvious question, and what I'm going to say is, I was at a Chelsea game, and this band was in the middle of the pitch playing 5 songs. I think you done.
Yeah, that's right.
5 songs. And you were called Accent. You were billed as the first casual band. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we were. I think there might have been 1 or 2 others knocking around, but we were definitely the first and the most successful, whatever success is, but the most renowned, well-known, should we say,
Because like a lot of Chelsea fans, you know what we were like. Oh, you're a Chelsea fan, so you know what we're like with things different at the Bridge. And a lot of people listened and warmed to you, didn't they? They sort of appreciated what you were doing.
Because I thought we were going to get either laughed at or things thrown at us or whatever, but everyone was really into it. It was quite respectful.
Yeah, I did throw a few things at you.
Thanks. I was dodging them.
I mean, you were called Accent, weren't you? Gary Bushell managed you, didn't he? Was it Gary Bushell?
Well, the actual manager was Stuart. He used to run Stuarts in Shepherd's Bush. Do you remember the clothes shop?
Yeah.
So Gary Bushell was the journalist we went to because we knew that he would be interested because he was right on the ball with all that sort of stuff at that time. Yeah. But the manager was Stuart. But we sort of thought, a bit like the Pistols and Malcolm McConnell, we just wanted to get free clobber. So we went to his shop. He didn't have a clue about managing bands or whatever. He was pretty useless, but he could sell clothes to people. And we thought if we got him as our manager, he could get us a load of free clobber. So we did do that. But Gary Bushell was the journalist. He massively helped us,
Top fella. Been here, Martin. I would just like to know, you obviously started off in the middle of the pitch at Chelsea. Which year was this, Mick?
Well, it was the 83-84 season. I double-checked before we came on. Right. And it was the last home game that season against Barnsley.
That's it, yeah.
So Chelsea was a very different place to what it is now back then.
Well, I mean, the pitch was like sand, basically, wasn't it? Especially by the end of the season. I mean, there was more grass on the terraces, wasn't there? When after the ground was sectioned off, wasn't it? Well, bits were crumbling and all that. And the pitch was diabolical. But to get the gig, we were just, at the time I was living in Fulham and we just was walking past and we thought, why don't we just, they've got the promotion game coming up. Why don't we just ask him or ask them if we could play? So we literally, then you could just walk into the ground, couldn't you? And the office was that little place with the ivy on it. Do you remember?
That's it. Yeah.
And literally you went in there was the secretary, as I remember it might be different, but the secretary was like in the doorway. And then it was like Ken Bates' office just round the corner. And we just thought, fuck it, let's go in there and see if we can play. So we did. And we spoke to the secretary. God, it's mad to think you could just walk in these places then.
Yeah.
And old grumpy old Ken in the background, like going, yeah, just sort it out with the secretary, no problem whatsoever. So literally within minutes, you know, numbers were exchanged. Obviously, we didn't see or hear from Ken Bates ever again, but the secretary got in touch. We sorted out a PA, you know, timings and all that. And then it all happened. But, I mean, it was quite early. But there was still quite a lot of people in the ground because it was a promotion game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, was you all Chelsea fans, all you boys in the band? Or
well, me and the singer was. The drummer, bless him, he's a mate of mine, but, you know, like drummers are drummers, aren't they? They sort of, I don't know where we got him from, like Melody Maker or something. You know, he's supported like Notts Forest or something, probably. But, me and the singer, and we were going all the time, every home game, away games and all that, But I was living in Fulham. I used to hang around with a lot of people from around Fulham. I used to drink in the Nell Gwyn, you know, remember the Nell Gwyn?
Yeah.
So, we were going to all the games.
So did you, after you'd done that gig, did you think this is it? We're going to push on and be bigger and bigger, or did it sort of collapse around your ears after that?
We did. In that, at the time, Pat Nevin was really supportive.
He loved you, didn't he, Pat Nevin?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. Obviously, everyone loved Pat at that time. Well, we all loved Pat still. I mean, then he was a brave player, wasn't he? Like the creative wizard or whatever. And one of the few footballers, to openly admit, or not admit, but talk about music, wasn't he? And loving music and all the indie bands and all.
Yeah, he loved all the indie stuff. He loved the Smiths. He loved your band. He loved Spear of Destiny. Who's a mate of yours, Brandon.
Right, Kurt,
he's coming on, and
Kurt's mad Chelsea and all, as you know.
Oh no, he's going. I've spoken to him. He's going to come on as well. And
I watched a lot of games.
Yeah, like yourself, he's as you say, a big Chelsea fan, and he's led a sort of a mixed life, hasn't he, Kurt? You know what I mean? Different bands and. You know.
In fact, his bass player was Stan, and he's a mad Chelsea fan and all. And when at that time, I think we were standing in the T-bar of the shed, and there was a little crew of us, and Stan used to come and watch the games with us. You know, he used to come, well, not every week, but when he weren't touring, he'd come down. Yeah.
So what was your? Who was your influences then, making music when you first sort of started?
Number one at that time was definitely the Jam. I mean, massive. And then before that, the Club, you know, and then before that, Bowie, I guess. But, the Jam, really. I mean, to be honest, we were like a second-rate version of the Jam. You know, we couldn't play as well as them, obviously. We were massive Jam.
It's just come out recently that he's a Chelsea fan, Paul Weller. Have you met him?
I have met him a couple of times. In fact, my mate Stuart D-Bills, he did a book with him, and I think that's where the Chelsea thing... Do you know Stuart? He's done a couple of books on the Jam and things. He's a mad Chelsea fan and all, and I think that's it. Sort of rekindled Weller's interest a bit in Chelsea, because he had that scarf on the piano, didn't he? Did you see it?
That's right. Yeah. That's what we've been trying to track him. He's a big superstar, isn't he? Like yourself, but he's like, we would love to get him on doing what you're doing, but I think it'd be impossible. I mean, we've tried to go.
He might do. Because he's a lot more approachable now than he used to be, I think, because he don't really drink or anything, does he? So, But I know him. Well, I remember in one of his albums with the Style Council, he had this sort of My Favourite Shop. I don't know if you remember it. And on this thing, he had like a Chelsea programme.
Oh, did he?
70s. Yeah.
Oh, right.
So he must have been a long-term fan.
So if I was you, Mick, the name of the band Accent, how did that come about?
The name?
Yeah, the name Accent,
Yeah, because it ain't a bad name, actually, is it? I was surprised no one's nicked it.
Good, yeah.
I don't know, it's just one... I think I saw a music shop somewhere, and it was called Accent Music, and I thought, that'd be a good name for the band. But then it had the meaning, obviously, of accents, and, London accents, regional accents, whatever. It sort of fitted. It fitted really well. But as I was saying about Gary Bushell and that, what we did, we had a fanzine. We created our own little fanzine, and we sent it to Gary Bushell, and then he reviewed a gig, and he called it, the review of the gig was around Christmas time, and he called it Pringle Bells, which I thought... But like I say, he was so supportive in that, and he really tried to help us out. He put us on the cover of Sounds. So we had the cover of Sounds, a full-page article, the Chelsea gig, and like you say, at that point, we were just convinced we was going to be like the next next jam or whatever, the next big thing. But it didn't quite work out, obviously. But we were playing around Fulham.
What clobber did you get out of Stuarts up Uxbridge Road? Can you remember what we was going for? Pringles and Farrers,
Parrots. I mean, he was...
Beaches.
Yeah, and Farrers, Kickers.
Kickers, yeah.
He had a bit of feeler, but he didn't have all the top stuff. He was more probably what he got knocked off from somewhere, you know what I mean? He was a bit of a wheeler dealer. I don't know if you remember.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah.
He had a big roller in that.
Sold the shop now, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's still there though, isn't it? But he's not. I don't even know if he's about. I don't even know if he's alive anymore, really, to be honest. But he was quite a big character around Chiswick and Shepherd's Bush at the time.
He was well known, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had a roller. He used to cruise around in that everywhere.
Yeah.
Funny.
So after the Accent finished, what did you? Because you've had the Monty, the pub down in Brighton. That was a success. Yeah. Didn't you have the first boutique hotel in the country?
That's it. Yeah, I did. So for a little while, I was working for Duffer of St George. I don't know if you remember them, that clothing label.
Yeah, that's what
we were talking about that, Martin, weren't we?
Yeah.
I had no idea you was involved in it.
To be honest, I'm like, when the band split up, I was a bit lost in that I didn't really know what to do. When you've sort of dedicated several years to music and being in a band, you know, I had to pretty much start all over again. And I think I got a job in a clothes shop up in Covent Garden. And then ultimately that led on to getting into Duffer of St George, just when they were like really smashing it in the 90s, you know, and they were like a massive label. And I got a lot of respect for them and the people that worked there and everything. And it was a good little gang of us, you know, we all looked after each other and everything. And the clothing was tops at that point, you know, in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a well-known football brand as well, wasn't it? It was one of the original sort of boys was wearing it on the terraces, weren't they?
Because it started quite underground, didn't it? And then
it was a good label.
But so after that, anyway, I was still doing a little bit of music, but more like the dance thing we kicked off by that point, you know, like Acid House. I was right into the Acid House scene. Did a couple of tracks myself. And then from one of them, I got signed to a record label, actually, through some friends, East West Records. And like, they gave me an advance and I brought out a couple of singles, not that they did anything. And it was under the name Perocco, which it stands for redhead in Spanish, because everyone used to call me Ginger Mick. Right. And so we translated that into Spanish, but it's spelt with a J, but pronounced with a C. So we called it Perocco. So I did this music, got some money from it. And I had a little bit of money. I mean, we're only talking like a few grand, but bearing in mind, this was like 1999, 2000. And I had just gone down to Brighton with my ex-partner. And we were staying in a themed hotel, like themed rooms. But as it turned out, they weren't themed rooms. So it just set our minds thinking, what if you had like a mod room? Because, you know, you got the Quadrophenia Rally, which we were looking for in Brighton at the time. And a punk room or all the things that we grew up with through youth culture, etc., and a reggae room or a hip hop. We wanted to put them modern ideas, we thought, into a themed hotel. So I had a little bit of money, and then we tried to raise some more money, and eventually we did raise some money, and then we bought the lease on a hotel in Brighton, and we called it Hotel Perocco because we didn't know what to call it, and we thought, let's just call it something a bit out there that would be more memorable than, you know, sort of thing. And it all happened. I did that for 15 years, and that was brilliant. I mean, that was top fun. You know, all the bands used to come and stay, musicians, etc. You know, it was. And
did you move on to the Monty after that, then, Mick? Or
so then about 2015, there was the mini recession started, and all like them companies like Bookings.com and all them started coming in. So suddenly they were taking commissions on all the bookings and that. And I just thought, 15 years, I think it's probably run its course for me. So I sold it. And then I bought the Monty pub. And I thought, sort of probably naively looking back, that I could create a rock and roll pub in Brighton and have bands on all the time. But I hadn't really done my research on it because it was quite residential, the area. And, you know, the neighbours were like, they went up. And like, within a year, it had all gone tits up pretty much. But I always like the opening party. There's a band out of Ladbroke Grove called Rotten Hill Gang, and they're friends with Mick Jones from The Clash. And I got them all to come down for the opening. and about 300 people turned up, purely on the back of Mick James was coming from the clash. And he came.
And he turned up. And he turned up.
Turned up, yeah. But it probably weren't a great way to sort of kick it off with the neighbours, you know.
So who are you friends with in the music business now? Maybe you still pals with like some Mick Jones and Kurt Brandon and all them?
Yeah, Kurt. I mean, I speak to Kurt quite a lot about football when the season's on, mainly. We go and watch the games together. And there's a local pub down here, funny enough. We was in there and Colin Pates was in with John Bumpstead.
Yeah.
They were watching the game in the pub and I couldn't believe it. And they're mad Chelsea fans, didn't they, them two?
I've interviewed them recently. I've done both of them recently. Yeah.
They love talking about Chelsea, don't they?
Yeah, they're
all the
Chelsea
things,
boys, don't they?
Yeah. And all the little things they used to get up to then when they were going all apprentices or whatever at Chelsea. So we watched a couple of games with them. I do know a load of musicians. I can't think of half of them now. But Charlie Harper, UK Subs, he's another Chelsea fan. Funny enough.
I used to see when I used to live in Mitcham in South London. Charlie used to practice at the Queen's Head in Wimbledon when he had what was his name of his band? UK Subs. Wasn't it?
UK Subs. That's it. Yeah,
he used to be an hairdresser. Charlie was an hairdresser in Tooting, and he was a funny little man, wasn't he? He's a strange one, wasn't he? Yeah. It's just
I watched quite a lot of games with him, funny enough, because there's a little Chelsea community down in music, Chelsea community. You want to watch games, you know. Yeah. But Charlie, again, he loves Chelsea. I mean, he's mad for it.
Could you get him to come on then, Mick? Do you think on your channel?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Last time I see Charlie, he done a concert for one of the Stoke boys up at Stoke, Mark Chester. He done his book, and Charlie played with his band UK Subs. And he had a Japanese girlfriend.
Yeah, that's right. UK.
Are they still together? The band?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. She sort of manages him in a way. So I think I might see him this weekend. I think he's coming to the pub at the weekend because I've got a band playing at the weekend. It's like a little punk reunion. There's a band called Active Ed. But they were a bit of an obscure punk band, but they're quite like them at Chelsea. Funny enough, they're all playing at the pub on Saturday. So Charlie's coming. I'll have a word with him. But I mean, I've got so much respect for him for like being that age and still touring and.
Oh no, for his age, he was brilliant, wasn't he, Charlie? Yeah. Even then, he was older than us, lot, wasn't he? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, he was good, entertaining, Charlie. Yeah. No, nice fella. But no, so do you still go to games, Mick, or not? Did you ever try to get up the bridge?
Yeah, I always go to a few every season. Yeah, I mean, I don't go every week anymore, but you know, I could try and take in 4 or 5 a season. Yeah. Good luck, my mate still got season tickets.
How do you feel about modern football then, Mick? It's a question which you usually like to ask.
Sort of love-hate, innit? Love-hate. Yeah. I mean, when we win the Champions League, obviously I love it, but prior to that, you know, when we're getting ready managers every 5 minutes. But I think I was watching one of your interviews and Gary Chivers was saying that he had so many managers as a Chelsea player. It's a bit of a Chelsea thing, even though people think it's just a new thing. We've always kind of got through our managers. Yeah. So, I don't know, modern football, it's a love-hate, isn't it? I mean, winning, fantastic. And we've got better, obviously, with this season. I was a bit sick to see Lampard go. I know you weren't, so you were quite...
Oh, you've been doing research, haven't you?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I thought he was a world-class player. We loved him, old Frankie, as a player. As a coach, I think he left a lot to be desired, Mick. That's my opinion. But as a player,
I think you're spot on. Looking back, I can see that.
Tommy Tuchel is going to be some manager for us, I'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm thinking actually modern football's pretty good again, you know. But I mean, getting the games, ticket prices, and all that, it's obviously all shit. And Sky, you know, it's gone away from the real supporter. Of course it has, but we're still there. But it's not really aimed at us anymore, I guess, is it? Which is
it's not like going to Chelsea in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's a different audience, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
it's more sterilised.
The lack of atmosphere crap kills everyone. Anyone who's been to football for years, and whatever team really, it's the same, innit? I mean, Arsenal's been quiet for years, but Chelsea's going that way, innit? And
well, it's a different audience, Mick.
Really sad. Yeah, I hate that.
Completely different audience. So what are you?
Sorry.
Yeah, go on, mate.
I still get a buzz going down there. I do. I'll always love it, and I love going to the bridge. And I'll still see all my friends there, and it's the crack, isn't it? It's the crack.
Definitely.
Win or lose, really.
Yeah.
So you said, was you a Fulham boy then, Mick? Was you born in Fulham?
No, well, actually, I was born in Hounslow originally. Hounslow.
Right. Yeah.
And that's pretty staunch Chelsea area.
Big Chelsea area, isn't it?
Yeah, my brothers were all Chelsea, and they grew up with the Osgood. I mean, I was young, but I was aware of it, and then that era and that team was so influential, wasn't it, for so many people? That's probably why we all support Chelsea, innit? The Osgood years and all that.
Yeah, I
grew up in Hounslow, then moved to Fulham.
I had the privilege of meeting Osgood. I wrote his book, King of the Bridge, and he was a real character. He was an absolute nutcase, and he's just had so much about him, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that, what you said though, Mick, that team in Charlie Cook, Johnny Hollins, Ron Harris, Peter Zanetti, we should have won more, shouldn't we? We really did underachieve. But a great side, you're right.
That kit was all stylish, wasn't it? And it was a lovely blue, the little white stripe and all that. And I don't know, it all fitted, didn't it? And I know they went into decline for a bit after that, but that kind of added to the Chelsea thing as well, didn't it? We had the glory years, we had the struggling years. And I mean, for me, what hooked me as well, apart from my family, was the atmosphere of the shed when I was at school. You walked in the shed and all that. And I mean, it was like a drug, wasn't it? You couldn't get enough singing and the noise and the whole thing, So,
but the year you played on the pitch, you look at, I think John Neal was the manager then, wasn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Terry Dixon, Dave Speedy, Nigel Spackman. What a team he built, John Neal. Did you meet any of the players that day?
No.
The day you done the concert, your little concert?
Oh, no, not that day. I mean, that's what Nevin was saying, like, when I chatted to him about it afterwards, he thought he was going to come and watch us that day, but pre-match, they were all in the zone, I guess, really, they weren't really about. I'll tell you what I got friendly as well was Paul Cannonville from that team, from that era, I mean, and he's a top fella, Cannonville. They were all Chelsea fans, both of them, weren't they? And all became Chelsea fans anyway since then. And there was an affinity with the players, wasn't there?
Oh, definitely. And they were approachable. Like we had what I called the Mitcham Mafia from Mitcham. Gary Chivers, Nicky Fillery, Colin Payton, Ian Britton and Gary Locke both lived in Mitcham in a rough area. So you had what they were called the Mitcham Mafia. David Lee, the centre half.
He was telling me things they used to go to training in like a Nick's motor and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if it was true or not, but some old banger that they pinched or something. But then I moved to Fulham in the early 80s, Before it had gone massively gentrified, it was still a bit, because Fulham in the early 80s was still a bit rough on the edges, wasn't it?
Of course it was, yeah. So how did you end up? How'd you end up in Brighton then, Mick, doing what you're doing?
Well, just to do the hotel, it's purely for the hotel. It was like a
just by chance.
Yeah,
you went down
I just had this. Yeah, I just had. Well, me and my ex-missus, we had this idea, and it was just one of them things, and we followed it, and it sort of happened. And then next thing you know, you're here, and you're in a hotel, and you're learning how to sort of run it, a bit like 40 Towers, I guess.
I was just going to say, was it like 40 Towers?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like loads of that going on, But with rock and roll thrown in, because, I mean, like the Beastie Boys would be there if they were in town, Joe Strummer, any musician at the moment was there. All the Happy Mondays used to stay all the time.
Really?
Like Bears, Manny from the Stone Roses. They all loved it. They'd always come back, because it was very friendly and it was a bit, not so much edgy, but, it had a good style to it. And it was off the beaten track, it wasn't like tourist track or whatever.
Was it a proper rock and roll hotel?
We had to close it just to get it ready for breakfast, like a quick half hour sweep up sort of thing.
Fuck me, it sounds like a madhouse, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was at times.
I bet.
But I look at it, I met the record collection, that's the way I look at it. It was nice. And and people in them bands, when they're on tour, they're quite relaxed and they're all generally pretty nice people as well. Yeah. Like the Strokes, when they became, just before they became massive, they stayed one night and they absolutely loved it. All these kids from America walked into this place. They were just walking around open mouthed and they had a lot of after parties there. Like Primal Scream used to do a lot of parties there, which, pretty late.
And what was Joe Strummer like? Bless him. What was he like?
Well, sadly I wasn't there that night. I'm gutted that I missed him. But he played one night. He just come in for a drink after the gig.
Yeah.
Just sat in the bar. Booked up the bar till late.
Yeah.
And I think the Kings of Leon were there. The same. I mean, it could be like urban myth, but Joe Strummer and the Kings of Leon having a drink at the bar was quite impressive.
Oh, but that was but that was a night and a half. And what's Mick Jones like out the Clash? Nice fella?
He's brilliant. Top fella. And so when he agreed to do that, him and the band agreed to do that gig at the Monty, they didn't want paying. They just wanted me to source this coach for them. But it had to be the original coach that the Clash, or similar style, the Anarchy in the UK tour, like with the Sex Pistols and all that. It had to be one of them really old-fashioned coaches. So no payment was made. I just had to hire this coach for them. And I've got pictures of it, the coach pulling up and Mick Jones getting off and everything. And it's a super nice guy. He was chatting to everyone. I mean, everyone was hassling him for photos and all that, but he didn't care.
He was a nice fella.
Yeah. I think he's PPR though, but still.
Yeah. I saw before the Clash, Joe Strummer was in a band called the 101ers. Do you remember them? Yeah. They had a single out called Keys to Your Heart. Well, they supported Queen at they supported Queen at the London School of Economics on a Friday night. There was about 50 people there, and me and my two mates were three of us there. We paid £1 to see Queen. They'd just been on the Old Grey Whistle Test on the Tuesday, doing Keep Yourself Alive and another number, I forget what it was, out of the first album. The 101ers were the support band with Joe Strummer for £1. For £1 to see them two bands. Fucking brilliant. As you say, you see these legends of music and something else, and they're just normal people, isn't it, when you get talking to them?
He goes.
Damon Albarn, he's another Chelsea fan, isn't he? He's a big Chelsea
guitar.
Yeah.
He's always got Chelsea stuff on in his videos and that he does now. Yeah,
there's a lot of Johnny Bond.
Yeah. I think with the King's Road being around the corner, it must have been a little bit of an influence, mustn't it? Somewhere. Yeah. You had their shop was just right there, wasn't it? On quite close to the ground, really.
Just up the road, wasn't it? In the new King's Road, where it goes into the King's Road, wasn't it? Yeah. Was you into the punk scene then, Mick? Was you?
I was. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was coming out of school when it happened. I was still at school, but I was really influenced by it. I was too young for the initial bit. But I was more like the UK Subs era, going to gigs. I used to follow UK Subs quite a lot, actually. And when the Marquee was going, the Lyceum, all them great venues. I mean, the Lyceum was an amazing venue, wasn't it, for bands?
Yeah. Did you play the Marquee? Accent? Did they play the Marquee?
We did, actually, yeah. Yeah, we did, yeah. Once. Supporting.
Low ceilings, wasn't it, in there? People played it.
Yeah, I mean, I loved that place. I used to go there all the time when I left school. But I had a fake ID. I had my mate's driving licence to get in there because I looked so young. You had to be 18 or whatever to get in. I looked about 16 at the time. So I just memorised his driving licence to get in there. There's no one believed me in the age. I was like 17 watching the UK Subs and all that. But it's brilliant.
Was that your favourite?
Nashville, because we was really lucky around that area for venues, weren't we?
Yeah, West. Nashville was a brilliant venue, wasn't it? Nashville was great. I saw AC/DC there, and Elvis Costello played in Nashville up at West End. Yeah, some big bands played there, and at the ground, Fulham Palace Road. That's got some good bands.
We used to play there quite a lot. I've got a lot of pictures of us playing at the ground.
Oh right, shame. All these venues are gone now, aren't
they? Yeah, the Clarendon, that was another good one. Hammersmith. Well, and the Pally itself as well. I mean, that obviously Hammersmith Pally was legendary in that area, wasn't it? And the Clash
Yeah. And also the UK Subs, was they one of your favourite all time? Yeah.
Well, at that time, we used to go and follow them everywhere. There was a little group of us who used to follow them about and that and go all over the country following them, like Guildford, Aylesbury, all these sort of places.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of trouble at gigs then, as you probably remember.
Oh, yeah, all spitting and throwing gear and pogoing and pushing and, Yeah. So what do you think of the American, do you think they started it with the New York Dolls and Iggy Pop and television? And?
Well, I guess so, yeah. I mean, no one wanted to admit that, did they, through the 20 years ago or whatever. But when you look back at it, undoubtedly, that sort of started with Iggy. Then the Ramones, obviously, going for New York Dolls, But, I mean, the English take on it was completely different. It was kind of went side by side. I think they grew parallel in many ways. There were influences between the two, but I think the punk rock as a movement, the English bands formed, all the Pistols and the Clash, they made it a universal movement, didn't they? Whereas the influence was the Ramones and prior to that Iggy or MC5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But they were the foundation. But I think punk really came out of England, didn't it? You know, the fashion, all the clothes, and it became like
a generation could be in a band, couldn't they? They could pick up the guitar, teach themselves to play, and be in a band and be fairly successful. Some of them from nothing, wasn't they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Buzzcocks and all them sort of bands.
Yeah.
So,
like the Pistols, they were so influential in. I mean, that was before my time. Even though I liked them, I bought the records forever. I never saw them. Well, I saw them on their comeback tours. I've seen them on, but they literally toured the country, and then a band would crop up in like Manchester, influenced by them, or Newcastle, or wherever. You know, I mean, how many bands have done that in their career? You know.
Yeah, I've just read Steve Jones's biography.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
It's
quite a bit odd at times.
Could someone, as a musician, I can't play the fucking spoons, I couldn't play fuck all, but as a you're a musician, he sounded like he couldn't play the guitar, but he made out he could. Could he play the guitar? Was he a good guitarist?
In the end, undoubtedly, brilliant.
Oh,
really
he was.
Good. But he was definitely sort of self-taught, and he couldn't read music or nothing, could he? So he just learned it. What he said, wasn't it? He just took loads of speed and just kept playing.
That's what he said in the book.
And all that, I mean, he was proper out there, wasn't he? Character.
Yeah. He practiced at some little sort of like lock-up at the back of Tin Pan Alley, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Where he knew the caretaker and let him stay there and he lived there. And he practiced on speed and taught himself. And I'm thinking, because some of his guitar work is really excellent and it's really good to, you know, I don't know technically if he's any good, but to listen to it, it was blinding.
The fact that he was self-taught, that's what made him different. And he used to nick all the equipment, didn't he? All their equipment.
That's right. He's going to Hammersmith.
So, proper West London.
But I thought they were a great. I thought they were a great band, didn't you? The Pistols.
Yeah. And to have that influence, just one album, really, wasn't it? Never mind the bollocks.
That's all they ever done, really, wasn't it? That was all. It was a clever man, Malcolm McLaren, wasn't he, to get them to where they got to.
Steve Jones came up with that title, and he formed the band, and even the name, the Sex Pistols, it was all Steve Jones' idea. It was all him, really. But Lydon obviously got all the credit and the fame because he was the front man. I mean, obviously, without him, they wouldn't have been anything, I guess. But
he done the lyrics.
They hated each other and loved each other, kind of thing.
Oh, I read his book, and I don't know if you know Bully, Gaetano Bulliani. Do you know Bully from Chelsea? I wrote his book as well. And he's friends with Johnny Lydon. And they, as you say, they hate one another, don't they, with a passion.
Yeah.
Paul Cook and Steve Jones are good pals. They grew up together around the bush, didn't they? So,
that's right.
But Johnny Lydon, he was the man, the brains with the lyrics and all that, wasn't it? It was Steve Jones says. He was a clever man with the lyrics and the way he behaved and the persona he adopted.
I think he was such oddball. He could only do that in his career. I think if he hadn't have formed or been in that band, who knows what had happened to him? You know, he was sort of made for that position, wasn't he, Johnny Lydon? They've all fallen out again now. I've heard that Lydon's and Steve Jones, they're all suing each other because they're making a series. They're making a series about the Pistols based on the Jones book, and John Lydon won't let them use the music or something.
Well, is that true? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all happening.
Besides that, going back to your band, the Accent, and the casual scene, let me ask you a question, which I'm very passionate about. Where do you think the casual scene started? The Scousers reckon it started in Liverpool.
100% London.
100%. Oh dear. This is my bugbear, right? What do you think?
What would you say? I think down south, definitely. I mean, 100%. They were doing their thing. They were
scruffy bastards.
Yeah. I think our thing as well come out. It weren't just at football. We're coming out of all the local discos in the areas and all that as well, wasn't it? Farrah's, Smart Top. It sort of grew like that. I don't know.
When you saw the northern teams come to Chelsea, or you went up north to watch Chelsea play, They didn't have the gear we had on, did they?
They didn't know what hit them at the point, did they?
That's what I'm saying. They were scruffy fuckers, they was. You know what I mean? And they make out, because they nicked a bit of gear in Europe in the 70s.
It's all about nicking and that,
Yeah, but how much gear could they fucking nick? They couldn't have nicked thousands of feeler tops, could they? One or two.
No. And it felt like it was all cagoles and, like, shitty Adidas sort of cagoles.
That's what I'm saying. Stuff you get in millets they had on, didn't they? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So
they tried to claim it. But
they've always tried to claim it, haven't they?
Yeah.
Oh, it started in Liverpool. You know what I mean?
I guess that's a bit like you were saying about punk rock, whether it started in New York or London or whatever. But it's the same thing with the casual thing. Did it start in Liverpool or London? But it's clearly London anyway, definitely.
100%. I'm glad you said that.
I mean, Arsenal were pretty stylish back then and all, weren't they?
I've always said that.
Martin did say that, Podcast coming out soon about it, isn't there, Martin?
Yeah, we've got a podcast coming out this week, I think. One day this week, haven't we? About
where the casual scene started.
So I think it was in the local discos and the same people. When I say discos, I know, but like Dingles at Fulham Broadway. Remember Dingles behind?
Yeah.
It was a little weird little club, wasn't there, around the back?
Yeah, that's it.
Broadway Station. Yeah, but all the fashion was in there.
Yeah,
and then the same people were going to the games, weren't they? So, of
course it was. And the doorman, like Pat Dolan, I don't remember Fat Pat Dolan, Chelsea. He was one of the doormen there, so he would be on the terraces with us fighting. Yeah. Then he'd be the doorman at the club. You know what I mean? It was a very sort of, everyone knew that one another around the area, and everyone knew one another at football, didn't they? Even if you don't know their name, you knew them by face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a very tight knit sort of carry on at football over Chelsea in them days.
Yeah. And everyone was trying to have their own look within it, weren't they? No, it wasn't like everyone wanted to look the same. You know, you all wanted to find a little, or try and find the next
individuality.
Which don't get as much. Because when you see them films about it, what was that film they did? I can't remember. But everyone had on the same sort of gear and all that, and it weren't about that. Everyone tried to look different, you know, within it.
I was saying the other week to Matty about all this like resurgence with feeler and tennis gear and all that. Yeah. Not many people actually wore all that at football, did they? No. It was only the odd few. We didn't have hundreds of people dressed up as tennis players at football, did you? You know what I mean?
No.
It was the odd few.
Exactly. No.
Unfortunately, Martin, we're running out of time, mate.
All right then, mate.
Just one quick thing on that. Can I just... When we went... I remember going into Selfridges about 10 years ago, and bearing in mind, at that time, they wouldn't go near a football crowd or people who wore all that gear. I walked through Selfridges and there was like a feeler stand. Ticini was in there. All the labels were in there.